It is 2025, ladies and gentlemen, and in the last episode we went over why manual transmissions were disappearing, but today we're going to keep things a little bit happy, still a little bit sad because there's a lot less cars available than there were, let's say, 5 years ago, but we still have quite a few selection of brand new cars that are still offered with a manual transmission. Our first brand we're going to start off with is Toyota. Good old Toyota, still giving us manual transmissions in 2025, and that is going to be the Toyota Tacoma. So I'm actually really surprised by this because I thought when Toyota announced the new Tacoma that it was coming out with a smaller inline 4 engine, so I was pretty sure that the manual transmission in the Tacoma was gone for good, but nope, we are still getting the Tacoma with a manual transmission. Of course, the new GR Corolla is still being offered on a manual transmission, so that is very good. And of course, still the GR86 is still being offered with a manual transmission. I don't see these cars ever getting rid of the manual transmission because these are very enthusiast style cars, and I don't know if they sell many automatics. The people who buy these tend to be more enthusiast and buy the cars with manual transmission. So another car being offered by Toyota with a manual transmission is the Toyota Supra. As of 2025, the Toyota Supra is still being offered with a manual transmission. Honestly, out of all the cars on the list, if I had to buy a brand new car, probably be one of the top cars on my list just because I just like this car. Call me basic, call me whatever, but I think the Toyota Supra is such a nice car. Yeah, I get it, it's a BMW, but they look like they're very fun cars to drive. On to the next brand. Volkswagen is only selling, at least in the US, is only offering one car with a manual transmission. They discontinued in 2024 the Golf. Now you can only get the Golf in a DCT. So the only car you can still get from Volkswagen with a manual transmission is the Jetta. Specifically the Jetta GLI, or which is essentially the same engine that was in the Golf. The Jetta still is keeping Volkswagen's enthusiast legacy still running. Interesting to see they ditched the manual in the Golf, considering the Golf is kind of an enthusiast car. Then again, Volkswagen does offer probably one of the best automatic transmissions on the market right now. Next is Subaru. Get this one out of the way, the BRZ. Obviously, same thing. It is the same car as the GR86, just a few differences, but essentially the same car. And of course, the WRX is still being offered in a manual transmission, which is good. But the WRX's baby brother, the Impreza, has ditched the manual transmission as of 2025, which is really unfortunate because the Impreza was the only wagon still being offered at a manual transmission, at least here in the US. Next, we're on to Nissan. The only manual cars you can get are either the Nissan Z, which is a very cool car. I feel like a lot of people sleep on these cars. The other car from Nissan still being offered with a manual transmission is the Nissan Versa, which I'm really happy to see because it has an MSRP of under $20,000. But for a brand new car under $20,000 to still be offered a manual transmission is a pretty big deal, or still keeping economy cars with manual transmissions alive. And the next brand is Mazda. So they are still offering the Mazda 3 and of course the MX-5. I don't ever see Mazda ever offering an MX-5 without a manual. Next company is Jeep. And for Jeep, we have the Wrangler still being offered with a manual transmission and the Jeep Gladiator. Next, we'll quickly move on to Porsche. So for Porsche, the 718, so the Cayman and the Boxster are still being offered a manual transmission. And then of course, obviously the 911 is still coming with a manual transmission. Kind of goes to show you that even though, because the 911 has probably one of the most advanced automatic transmissions on the market, but even still, enthusiasts who buy these still want the manual transmission, and Porsche sees that. For all you people saying, oh, automatics are so much better, yeah, they are. On paper, they are better. But when it comes to having a very connected, very tactile driving experience, enthusiasts are still picking manuals. Next, we're going to move on to Honda, one of my favorite brands personally. The only two Hondas that are being offered with a manual transmission are the Honda Civic Si and the Honda Civic Type R. That being said, both these cars are really good cars. I mean, it's always been a very driver-focused car, and of course, the Honda Civic Type R being an absolute track monster that it is. And the good thing about both of these cars is both the SI and Type R, the only way to get those is in a manual transmission. Next, moving on to Hyundai. These are very fun cars. I've driven both the DCT and the manual transmission. Both are extremely fun cars. Next company is Ford. Ford is still offering the Bronco in a manual transmission. Very cool car still being offered in a manual transmission. And then of course the Mustang still being offered with a manual transmission. And I think there's a couple differences between the GT and the Dark Horse. I think the Dark Horse has a Tremec. Even in 2025, Ford is still giving us V8 manual cars. So very cool. Next, we're going on to Cadillac. Unfortunately, Chevrolet discontinued the Camaro, but it still kind of lives on through Cadillac in form of both the CT5 and CT4 Blackwing. CT4 Blackwing has a 3.6 liter V6, and then you have, in a class of its own, the CT5 Blackwing, because it has a supercharged 6.2 liter V8. And it's actually funny that this car has a higher top speed than the Corvette Z06. So this sedan is actually faster than a Corvette, at least in terms of top speed. The next car on the list is the Lotus Emira. But Lotus has always been a very enthusiast car brand, so not surprising to see that these still offer a manual transmission. They are absolutely beautiful cars. Next, we have BMW. It still offers manual transmissions for its customers. And the cars that BMW still offers with a manual transmission are the M2, the M4, and the M3, as well as the Z4. So the Z4, the M40i, is still offered with a manual transmission, which is pretty nice because if you think about it, it's kind of a Miata on steroids. And as for our final brand on the list that still offers manual transmissions, and that is Acura. So Acura has two cars still being offered with a manual transmission, and that is the Integra with a 1.5 liter inline four. It's basically the same car as the Honda Civic Si, same engine, same transmission, just a little bit nicer interior. And the second car is the Acura Integra Type S, and the Integra Type S is basically a Honda Civic Type R. So yeah, that's the list of the cars in 2025 that you can still buy with the manual transmission. Very unfortunate to see how little cars there are. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Comment down below what your favorite car is from this list and which car you would buy.